A couple days ago, the Oxford English Dictionary announced the word of the year, and it's post-truth. It's relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. So I worry about the ways that both post-truth claims have been affecting public discussions around Bill C-16, around the Ontario Human Rights Code. There have been some profound misunderstandings circulating about the law, and I'm here today as a lawyer, as a law professor, as a civil libertarian, as an expert in equality rights and freedom of expression to try to correct those misunderstandings. So let's start with Bill C-16, which passed third reading yesterday in the House. It's the proposed federal legislation that does three things. First, it adds gender identity and expression to the Canadian Human Rights Code. It will prevent the Canadian government, federal agencies, and businesses within federal jurisdiction, which are quite limited, banks, telecoms, airlines, from discriminating on the basis of gender identity and expression. This is hardly unprecedented. Indeed, the federal government is late to this game. Starting in 2002 and moving forward, the North Territories, Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Quebec, and British Columbia have already passed these protections. Ontario has had these since 2002. The federal government here is simply playing catch-up. There is absolutely nothing unprecedented in this. Number two, Bill C-16 adds gender identity and gender expression to provisions in the criminal code that define an identifiable group for the purposes of advocating genocide, the public incitement of hatred, and the willful promotion of hatred. So how might these provisions affect the use of pronouns? And do these provisions in any way criminalize the use or misuse of pronouns? Not even close. First, it is absolutely not advocating genocide. Now, unless one wants to start talking about we should kill all the X's, then that's advocating genocide. But pronoun use, nowhere close. Public incitement of hatred. Well, the provisions of the criminal code requires that the incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace. Now, does that sound subjective? Well, the Supreme Court of Canada has said there's a very clear definition. The threshold is violence. In fact, there has to be personal violence. It is an extremely high threshold. It is an extremely high threshold, high threshold, high threshold, high threshold.
Have been seen as dramatic by some of the students, maybe even threatening?
I don't see how someone would rationally think it was threatening. I could see how it might challenge their existing ideas, but for me, that's the spirit of the university, is challenging ideas that you already have. And I don't know who this came from. I would be interested to see the original complaint or complaints, because I don't really have any context, as to what exactly their problem was.
Sorry, can I?
The thing is, can you shield people from those ideas? Am I supposed to comfort them and make sure that they are insulated away from this? Is that what the point of this is? Because to me, that is so against what a university is about. So against it. I was not taking sides. I was presenting both arguments.
Okay. So the thing is about this is, if you're presenting something like this, you have to think about the kind of teaching climate that you're creating. And this is actually, these arguments are counter to the Canadian Human Rights Code. Ever since, and I know that you talked about C-16, ever since this passed, it is discriminatory to be targeting someone due to their gender identity or gender expression. So bringing something like that up in class, not critically, and I understand that you're trying to
It was critical. I introduced it critically.
How so?
Like I said, it was in the spirit of debate.
Okay, in the spirit of the debate is slightly different than being okay, this is a problematic idea that we want to unpack.
But that's taking sides.
Yes.
It's taking sides for me to be oh, look at this guy. Like, everything that comes out of his mouth is BS, but we're going to watch anyway.
Okay. So I understand the position that you're coming from and your positionality, but the reality is that it has created a toxic climate for some of the students.
How many?
It's great that...
Who? Like, how many?
Okay.
One?
May I speak?
I have no concept of like how many people complained, like what their complaint was. You haven't showed me the complaint.
Yes, I understand that this is upsetting, but there's also confidentiality matters.
The number of people is
With respect.
confidential?
Yes.
Okay.
Is one or multiple students who've come forward saying that this is something that they were concerned about and that it made them uncomfortable. You're perfectly welcome to your own opinions, but when you're bringing it into the context of the classroom, that can become problematic. And that can become something that creates an unsafe learning environment for students.
But when they leave the university, they're going to be exposed to these ideas. So I don't see how I'm doing a disservice to the class by exposing them to ideas that are really out there. And I'm sorry I'm crying. I'm stressed out because this to me is so wrong. It's so wrong.
Can I mention the gendered violence, gendered and sexual violence policy?
Yeah, please.
So under that, gendered violence doesn't just include sexual violence, but it also includes targeting folks based on gender. So that includes transphobia, biphobia, homophobia. All those sorts of things are protected under the policy, and so those are things that Laurier has upheld as values as well as the Ontario Human Rights Code. And so those are things that we're responsible for not impacting our students in that way, and not spreading transphobia in that way.
Okay, so what I have a problem with is I didn't target anybody. Who did I target?
Trans folks.
How? By telling them ideas that are really out there? By telling them that? By telling them? Really?
It's not just telling them in legitimizing this as a valid perspective, as this is another valid perspective.
In a
on these
university,
issues.
all perspectives are valid.
That's not necessarily true, Lindsay.
Well, this is something that's being debated in current society, and I don't feel the need to shield people from what's going on in society. Like,
okay.
to imagine that this is happening in university, it's just bad.
Okay, so
Bad.
just to give you a context, also within all of this that is happening, Laurier's being blanketed with white supremacist posters currently. There's another debate in society, which is whether or not North America should be a set of white nationalist states and that it should be ethnically cleansed of other people. That is also a current debate in society. Would you show something in your tutorial that you had, white supremacists and non-white supremacists debating whether or not other people should live in North America? Is that something that you would show?
If that was related to the content of the week and we were talking about right-wing speech bubbles, maybe.
Okay.
It depends on the content. Like, I mean, if there's really ideas that are existing out there like that, then, I mean, look, the thing is, like, I don't see what's transphobic about showing a video of Jordan Peterson. He's a real person. He's out there.
He is a real person, but he is a real person who has engaged in targeted behavior that, or targeting of trans students in a particular, like basically doxing them, if you know the term, like giving out their personal information so that they will be attacked, harassed, so that death threats will find them. This is something that he has done to his own students. He has done to other students. And this is also something that the students are aware of. So this is basically like playing, not to kind of do the thing where everything is kind of compared to Hitler, but this is like neutrally playing a speech by Hitler or Milo Yiannopoulos from Gamergate. This is the kind of thing that departmentally, in terms of like critical communication studies and in terms of the course of what we're trying to do, is diametrically opposed to everything that we've been talking about in the lectures. Was this one of the reasons that you wanted to do this? Because it was like a reaction to the lecture content? And
No, we were talking about gendered language, and I was asking them to structure sentences using they or using his or her. And then we talked about the societal context of it.
Okay.
So I don't get why I'm being seen as transphobic by virtue, by proxy of me just saying, just stating, just exposing people to an idea. I don't get how that label is not attached to me. I really don't.
It's more about the effect rather than the intention. If that, like, obviously that wasn't your intention, but nevertheless, it disturbed and upset students enough.
So everything's about those students who are disturbed. Everything is catered to them.
We end our adventure at this point. I hope you found something of interest in this video. If you would like to support my channel, I now have a Patreon page. If you're unable to support my work through Patreon, then you can share, like, or comment. It's all good. Thank you for watching.